in the state of California now, and the education system has changed in California. Every time I go to my children's school, I am reminded of all the food allergies we never had when we were kids. I'm in their classroom last week, big sign on the wall, nut-free zone. I look around. I don't think so. Kids cannot have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They can't have cupcakes on their birthday. You can't eat a hamburger that was looked at by anybody that lived in the Midwest. Living in the state of California is like an ongoing celebration of Earth Day. Every single day. Driving last week, I got stuck behind a couple of Prii. Very smart. More than one Prius. On the back of the Prius, a bumper sticker, "Save the Earth, everything is green." And out the window, a hand with a cigarette. You've seen it. It's like the vegan with the leather Gucci purse. Be as righteous as you want to be, but just be consistent. Right. And vegans make me laugh. They say stuff like this: "I wouldn't eat anything that had a face, really." Then I saw a vegan eating French fries, and I thought, my Mr. Potato Head had a face. When we had real toys, boys and girls. But I'll tell you this, I have the privilege of performing all over, not just Provo. And lovely place, very lovely place. And I got a call a few months ago to perform for a Catholic church. And I was talking to the agent. I was talking to the agent who was talking to the priest. And I said, you know, my name is Applebaum. I'm more of an Old Testament kind of guy. But some of you knew that. And he said, no problem. So I started off the show and I said, well, I understand you guys have been waiting for a Jewish guy to show up. And the last time you had him over for dinner, that's how the whole thing got started. I'm so happy you like that. Now, one thing they were telling me, and I'm sensing it all night long with all the chatter going on, they said, tonight is a very special night here. This is actually a very big gathering spot of a lot of people who are very involved in online dating. I'm sensing some Match.com right over here. Getting a whole lot of FarmersOnly.com over here. FarmersOnly.com, where you could find a rugged woman and get insurance. I'll be honest with you, looking around, some of you actually look like you do online dating with dial-up. Think about that, online dating with dial-up internet. How frustrating would that be? One profile every 3 days. Is she pretty? I don't know, it's still loading, I'm only up to the neck. Getting a little bit of Christian Mingle back over here. See, I love those commercials for Christian Mingle because my people, we have J-Date. J-Date, because it could never be Jew Mingle. It's like Jew Mingle. No, Jew. Jess. Joe Soy Mingo. Every ethnic group has their own dating website. A good friend of mine from India told me there's this website called Shaadi.com, S-H-A-A-D-I, Shaadi.com. People from India, it actually sends email to your parents first to get approval. And I was performing for this group of people from India. I wanted to relate to them. I told them right after college, I went on this date with this beautiful woman from India. And her parents weren't very happy about it because I didn't have a PhD. But I did win a spelling bee once, so they accepted me. And see, my wife gets mad at me. She changed her Facebook status from married to in a relationship. She said, one more screw up, it's going to, it's complicated. We live half our lives now on social media. I saw some of you here coming in today. At the dry bar, hashtag Provo Power. And some of you actually post everything you've eaten for the last 13 months on Pinterest. Every day. I can predict your bowel movements. Seriously. So I'm like, what are the food pictures I can post? At breakfast, hashtag hash browns. And now people from your past start reaching out to you on social media. I got a note from a friend of mine from kindergarten on Facebook 2 weeks ago. Kindergarten. She sends me this note. You've changed. I write back, I was 5. I go pee all by myself now. Stick around a few more years, I'm gonna need help again. Happens to everybody. You know what I'm talking about, right? And in California, we're in a drought, we're out of drought, we're in a drought, we're out of drought. I'll tell you this, in my neighborhood last year, you can get fined, you can go to prison for using too much water. I mean, imagine being in jail, you're like, hey man, why are you here? Murder, how about you? I said, I ran the sprinkler. You get out 2 years later, you got a big H2O tattoo on your neck. A real droplet of water. And Mother Nature is not happy. I recently experienced my first earthquake since living in the state of California. So I dove under a table, because that's what those people told me to do. Then I thought, wait, I bought this table at IKEA. And I put it together myself. You guys can't tell by now, I too was also born in the Holy Land. Brooklyn, New York. We got some Brooklyn people here tonight? No. Because that would be odd. Like, hey, man, where should we go? Provo. Like the cheese? No. Provo to Utah would, I'm saying Brooklyn to Provo would certainly be witness protection. That's all. Big culture shock going from New York to California, though. A few years ago, I was at this restaurant. The waitress comes up to me. Hi. I'm 23 years old. What were you doing when you were 23? I'm like, that was 20 years ago when I first moved out here. Well, how old are you now? I'm like, there's one child that got left behind. To make money as kids in New York, we used to rake leaves, mow lawns, shovel snow. I tried mowing lawns in San Jose. Some guy named Pepe threatened me for invading his territory. It was my lawn. I actually grew up in an all-black neighborhood in Queens, New York, and as the only white kid in the Little League, my mother would sit in the stands with all the black parents who'd ask, which one's your boy? Some of you might remember when Roots came out. That was one of the greatest documentaries about one of the worst institutions in our history. But let me tell you this, being the only white kid in an all-black neighborhood in Queens, New York, when Roots came out, was not a good thing. Okay? The next day, all I remember was, there's Massa, get him! I'm like, no, no, no! I'm Puerto Rican. He went that way, papi. That same year, I was in 4th grade, PS 95, Jamaica, Queens. True story, I actually won the Black History Month essay contest. But talk about a disappointed group of people. And the winner is Jeff Applebaum. Nah, that ain't right. Put that next to my NAACP scholarship. Pow! When in Rome, baby, when in Rome. Man, there's still so much chatter going on about these unisex bathrooms, and the biggest problem I have with unisex bathrooms is this. I cannot go into a bathroom, kill it, get out, see a woman, and then act like it wasn't me. Two dudes could be in a bathroom. My friend, you could drop a Taco Bell 10-pack nuclear Duke every day. I can walk in and go, oh, bro, good one. That's men and women, right? If I'm sitting down in a can and I look over and I see a pair of stilettos, I'm gonna wait it out. And if you're reading a book, I'm gonna lose circulation in my legs. Yeah. So I have 3 children, and my, I know, amateur, I have 3 children, and my wife is Chinese, and my middle boy looks Chinese. And when he was a baby, he was at the barber, and the barber slipped and shaved off all his hair. And I come home, and sitting in my chair is the last emperor. It's like, get off my pillow, little Buddha. And my wife wants the kids to learn Chinese because we may move to San Francisco. And we want them to interpret the tattoos of the privileged. That may not say warrior, that's all I'm saying. And she's speaking only Chinese to the kids, and after a few weeks, a few months, they start making noise. Blah, 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 blah. My genius friend goes, are they speaking Chinese or English? I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I heard a few, could be Hebrew. And now we're watching all the Disney classics in Chinese. We're not watching Mickey Mouse. We're watching Mickey Lao Shu. Xie xie. And my son comes to me last week, he's like, Daddy, I want to watch Naked Alien. 15 minutes later, I figured out he wanted to watch Nickelodeon. Now, my family is very well integrated. My older brother married a Swedish woman. My wife is Chinese. My younger brother's wife is black. That was an interesting wedding. New York Jews and black Southern Baptists. Our extended family reunions are like the General Assembly at the UN. Nobody speaks the same language, they're all fighting, and only 3 people recognize Israel as a country. And I remember my brother's wedding. He stepped on the glass and his in-laws yelled, Molotov! That's Mazel Tov. My wife and I just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. Happiest 6 years of my life. That was the year of the rat through the year of the rooster. I love my wife very much. We don't argue now, we only have discussions. And we had a discussion a few weeks ago over cream cheese. Cream cheese. Let me tell you what happened. I was sent to this... Excuse me, I went to the store. Who am I kidding? I was sent to the store to buy a dozen bagels. I use bagels in quotes because outside of New York, it's just bread and it's round, okay? Thank you. With a dozen bagels, you get to pick out your own flavor of cream cheese. I picked sun-dried tomato cream cheese because the packaging looked nice. I came home, handed my wife the bag. She opened it, took out the cream cheese, and said, "What is this?" All of a sudden, I became an 8-year-old trying to hide broccoli. I don't know. Who is going to eat this? I don't know. I was told to take it back. 3 days later, I'm at the grocery store. And I see a man take out his cell phone and take a picture of frozen pizza. Sent it to whom I believe was his wife. Waited 15 seconds, got the confirmation the pizza went in a shopping cart, and that's how you stay married today. We're gonna mess it up. And if you have kids that play sports, there is no such thing as a child's activity. It is an entire family commitment. I was at my kids' Little League game a few years ago. People say, "Hey, did you see your son get a hit?" I'm like, "No, I was working my 45 volunteer hours in the snack shack." We didn't have a snack shack when we were kids. And why at 8 years old does a kid have to have his name on the back of the uniform? There should be a rule. The kid's got to either be 15 or good. The last thing I need is who threw the ball into the stands? Applebaum. That's not my son. Look, the kid is Chinese. I have no idea who that kid is. That's not my son. And we're so afraid for kids to lose these days. We got to protect them from everything. It's like, hey, here's your 15th place participation trophy. Let's give him a hand, 15th place. I'm like, man, when we were kids, we lost, we cried, we went home, and we got better. I would get up to bat in my neighborhood. They're like, "You better not strike out, cracker." I'm like, a big swing and a miss. They're like, "Sit down, I'm gonna kill you." Today it's like, a big swing and a miss. "Good swing, Timmy, good swing." I'm like, "Your kid sucks." And we were not allowed to play football as kids. My mother would say stuff like this: "It's gonna damage your brain." Turns out she was right, by the way, okay? My cousin Richard, 6'5", 275 pounds, played football at the University of North Carolina. When he got married, it was like two big Italian guys, an Irish guy, a German guy, and me. I had the smallest neck in the wedding party. When you looked at the line of groomsmen, it was like stages of evolution. I was the one standing up on two legs, yes. My wife and I have found it so hard to travel, with all the kids, and we finally got to go to Barcelona a few years ago. Anybody ever been to Barcelona? As you know, in Barcelona, they speak Spanish a little bit differently than we do here in Estados Unidos. In Barcelona, they speak Spanish with a little lisp. And I got off the plane, this guy came up to me, he said, "Buenos dias." Okay. ¿Cómo está usted? Muy bien, muy bien. I'm like, who taught you Spanish, Sylvester and Tweety Bird? I thought I el gato. I did. And we also had a chance to go to Israel. And I remember the first time I got off the plane in Israel, I looked around and I saw so many people that looked like members of my family. Because we come from a long line of customs inspectors. And there's a lot of people of Russian descent in Israel, and I was on the beautiful beaches of Tel Aviv, and I turned around and I bumped into this big Russian guy, and it made me nervous. Because inside of every big Russian guy is another Russian guy. And inside of him is another Russian guy, and inside of him is another Russian guy. And that's my daughter's favorite joke, by the way, so. I look at all the games that the kids have these days. They got, what, an Xbox, Y-Box, Z-Box, you, me, we, them, us. What was our video game? What is the video game we had? Who remembers? First, Atari Pong. How many people remember Pong, right? Long white rectangle, little white square. And my family did not own a color TV till I was in 9th grade. It was a big old black and white TV, big wood box and small screen. And I'll tell you that, and we'd watch Batman. The kids would make fun of me. They're like, what color's Batman's cape? I'm like, gray. How about Robin? Light gray. And we wanted to watch Batman at 5:30. We had to turn the TV on at 5:15. Because it had to warm up. Could you imagine your kids, your grandkids sitting 15 minutes for a TV set to warm up today? Whatever. Whatever! 2 knobs for all the channels we wanted in the whole world, UHF and VHF. That knob would fall off, we'd use a pair of pliers. And on Saturday night in New York City, my brothers and I would watch what I thought was the greatest Spanish TV station of all time. We'd watch Channel 47, Lucha Libre, Spanish wrestling. And I look over at that TV set and I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. That TV set had no antenna. Then I thought I had a radio that had no antenna. I could be deep in the basement. I could be surrounded by steel. And no matter where I have ever been in this entire world, I have always received a crisp Spanish broadcast. Even Israel. Which makes me wonder, why aren't there more Spanish cell phone companies? Telefondo. Los noches y fin de semana, Telefondo. You put a wire hanger on top of a TV set, that is a Spanish satellite dish, right? I got a soccer game in Nicaragua, go! And when the picture would finally come on, it wouldn't be this beautiful flat panel HD image. It would come on like this. And it would never quite make it to the top of the screen. And I look up and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Catwoman's head is kind of dog-eared. And I look a little closer and go, whoa, 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 whoa. Doesn't Sony have one N? And my father had bought a Sunny TV. We grew up with all the off-brands. I didn't complain, I just sat there quietly eating my Ben & Gerald's ice cream. Rocky Ride? If you have ever shopped at Walmart, you know this, they don't have Mountain Dew and Dr. Pepper. They have Mountain Lightning and Dr. Thunder. Walmart was the #1 retailer in the world, but they didn't always have top shelf products, no. I bought a pair of underwear at Walmart and I had a little string hanging off of it. I pulled on that thing 2 days later, I had a sweatband and a do-rag. Do-rag with an air hole. I'll tell you, where I exercise, there's a lady who thinks for some reason that my name is Steve. It's a great name. It's just not mine. She sees me last week. She's like, hey, Steve. I'm like, hey. She's like, where's your next show? I'm like, here's my chance. I said, all the information's on my website, JeffApplebaum.com. She repeats, JeffApplebaum.com. Okay, Steve, I'll check it out. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing it.